So we're doing a stripping run today, and we'll be taking 7 barrels of whiskey wash and pumping that over into our Hoga still. This is our Hoga still. It has 1,000 liters or 17 gallons operating capacity. So it's got its copper pot. We call this the onion for when we make gin. We can put our botanicals in there. And then we have our condenser over here, which takes the ethanol and from gas state and condenses it into liquid. So right now we're pumping in the wash into our still. Boiler is set and ready to start heating this to a boil. This will spend 4 hours in this pot today. We call this a stripping run because we're separating the yeast, grain, and flour from the ethanol, and then that will go into a barrel. I was born in Vancouver and brought down here to Southern California back in '62.
I was born in Chicago, transplanted in my 9th grade.
By college days, I got into beer making and kept brewing beer for many, many years.
The fermentation has everything to do with the outcome of the whiskey, and beer is fermenting, as is wine, of course, and so someone who is an expert at fermentation has a real head start on making excellent whiskey, which he does.
The passion for it is the interest in what is finding what's out there and tasting it and saying, oh, I like that, and then figuring out how you can make it yourself and coming home and making that beer. So I'm getting specialty grains here for our whiskey to give it its own unique character. Whiskey is essentially a distilled beer when it's a malt whiskey. Our recipe for the whiskey for this batch is a porter style beer. So we'll get lots of rose flavors and chocolate. We use about 450 pounds of grain in our whiskey wash. My real work was initially up at JPL. I was doing software programming. Got to work on a number of projects that wound up in spacecraft. And I thought about doing the microbrewery because microbreweries are up and coming. We both saw that if you started at that point, you'd still be behind and you'd have to have a lot of money for marketing and establishing your brand. And at the time, micro distilling was still in its infancy. For an entrepreneur, we were still at the forefront. Doing the distillery project here took several years of planning and figuring out just how much it was going to cost to get into business. Everything was done on a shoestring. I did a lot of work myself, so there's a lot of sweat equity in this. From the control panel to the bottle washer to just putting everything in place, the electrical.
So I advise people who get the feeling that they'd like to start a micro distillery. Be very handy if you intend to go forward or have a great deal of money so that you can pay somebody to do it for you.
Yesterday's what we call a final distillation or a second distillation. We produced these 3 tanks of spirit, which I'm going to combine together in our Latina tank, and then we're going to put it into a barrel or barrels. So this will taste really sweet and just have this wonderful aroma of an immature whiskey. Some will call it white dog, but it's the shape of things to come. And when it's coming off the still, I find it exciting each time. Oh yeah, this is just delicious. Wood is a magical thing. This is a bourbon barrel that's had bourbon in it for 2 years, and then it's emptied. Here I have a barrel where the whiskey has been stored in it since March of this year, and we're just going to see how it's progressing. Starts off white like this, and in the 4 months, 5 months that it's been in there, it's now got a light amber color. It'll get much darker over the next 10 months, but it in comparison to the white spirit here, it's softened. It's picking up some wood nose. But it is coming along quite nicely. So here we have a beautiful Four Roses bourbon barrel. Good bourbon. Doesn't get any easier than that. Barrels are charred to produce charcoal, and that is one of the elements that helps smooth the whiskey over its time in the barrel, also purify it, and they'll toast the wood, and that level of toasting that is available lends to the aspect of the resulting whiskey as well. So we use a medium char, medium toast here at start. So in 2 years this will be ready. That would make it the Christmas of 2018. The goal is to be able to release a barrel a month. Done. That's really what craft spirits are about. That's what craft beer was about, taking the flavor up a notch. That's why people buy these double IPAs. They want hops, they want crystal malt, they want to taste the caramel, they want flavor. When I then distill that, those flavors are going to jump the column and come out. That's taking it up a notch, if you will. American craft spirits are really going to outshine the rest of the world.